Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Mahoney and I'm the author of the Guardian of the Opera trilogy, a retelling of the Phantom of the Opera. One thing that makes my version of this story unusual is that I have what I believe is a unique take on Christine Daae. You may have seen some vague allusions to that in references about the book online. I tend to put that at the end of my other videos when I talk about the book. I have it on the back of the book, in fact. It's on the last line of this first paragraph. Meg doesn't really understand Christine, or at least she isn't sure if she does. So there's a lot of sort of veiled references because frankly, Christine's character is a bit of a slow reveal and I don't want to give a lot of spoilers away. I mean, you don't put, hey, Darth Vader is Luke's father, sorry, spoiler, on the back of the Star Wars DVD case. Spoilers. But maybe you're the kind of person who likes to read the last page of a book first, or just likes to know where a story is going, what the take is, to decide if you want to read it. So this video is for you. There will be spoilers with regard to Christine Daae. So before I get too far into my own version of this, I wanted to put it in context a little bit. I really believe there is a Christine Daae problem in Phantom retellings. There have been a lot of retellings of this story since Leroux's original story in 1909. Gaston Leroux wrote the first, set the stage, so to speak, for everyone else. And the thing of it is, in all these later versions, the Phantom of the Opera himself, the character, has evolved a lot. You can almost trace it in a straight line. There are a couple of divergences here and there, but he has gotten progressively more sympathetic and more romantic as we go forward through the decades. The first Phantom in Leroux is a raving madman and quite scary, and there is some sympathetic elements to him, but he's really, really crazy. The Weber Phantom, much less crazy, much more romantic. Susan K. Phantom, same thing. He has some instability, but he is also very sympathetic as a character. And you see that pretty much progressively through the various versions, especially in the last 30 years. Most versions of the Phantom, the character has been a more sympathetic version. And if you took that Phantom, any of the recent ones, and put them in a room with the Gaston Leroux Phantom, you would not think they were the same person. They'd have some interesting parallels. I mean, he's still a madman. A little bit. He's still unusual, let's say. We'll be more generous towards the later ones. He still has the facial deformity. He still has the mask. He still lives under the opera house. I mean, you can see the connections. But personality-wise, action-wise, like verbal tick-wise, very different characters. You would not feel this way if you took the very first Christine and pretty much any later Christine and put them together. They are basically still the same person. Christine is very sweet and very innocent and probably pretty naive and very beautiful and very talented and really, really passive. She pretty much spends the story confused and scared and maybe a little bit drawn to the Phantom, but mostly really disturbed by him and drawn to Raoul, but also kind of confused. And so you have two issues here. Really, is where I'm going with this. One, the later Christine makes less sense when you put her with the later Phantom. The original Leroux Phantom, the original Leroux Christine, he was scary, she was scared. It makes sense. The Phantom is getting less scary. She's still scared, and it doesn't quite add up. And some of the things she's doing don't quite add up. And I think that's why there are some circles in Phantom fandom that are frustrated that Christine is not nicer to the Phantom. Why doesn't she see how really sympathetic he is the way all of us watching or reading it do? Well, because she's still the Leroux Christine. She's still reacting that way, even though he's not the Leroux Phantom. The second problem, it's 2020. Do we really still want a heroine who is passive and scared and has no agency and is just kind of being dragged around, sometimes literally, by the men in the story? I don't, personally. Which is one reason I have a completely different heroine. I have Meg as my heroine, and she is quite different because she's a different person. But I also have a different Christine. Okay, spoilers. So, on the surface, when you start reading my book, as I trust you will or have, Christine may look like the original Christine. She's still sweet, she's still beautiful, she's still innocent. She is not what she appears to be. But she has realized that appearing that way will get her what she wants. And I hope as you read the book, you're going to see the clues and the hints, especially now that I'm telling you, that she is not as sweet and innocent and kind or passive as she appears to be. It should become pretty apparent by the end of the first book, and it's very obvious if you continue reading the trilogy. By the end of book 3, she takes the metaphorical mask off in a few places, and we see who she really is. I'm also actually planning to release a longish short story or short novella sometime in 2021 that tells my trilogy from Christine's point of view, and we really know what she's thinking each point of the story. Because see, it was interesting for me writing it because it was always a double layer of what is she saying? What is she really thinking? And there is almost no point where those two things are the same. It was really cool to write. So let me unpack this a little bit more. If you're at the point where you're like, but no, Christine is beautiful and sweet. I've seen her in every version that way. Let me explain why it doesn't really make sense and tell you a little bit more about my version. So I said that she's realized she can get what she wants by appearing sweet and innocent. Let's unpack that. What do we know Christine wants? Well, she wants a singing career. She's at the opera house pursuing that before she ever meets the Phantom. He's teaching her to sing, but she was pursuing the career before she met him. That's important. And 2, she wants to marry Raoul. Eric Christine shippers will probably dispute this with me, but still, in virtually every version, she ends up marrying Raoul. You can think what you want about her feelings about the Phantom, but she does marry Raoul. So, I think what gets ignored or forgotten is how difficult both of those goals actually are, especially together. So there's a reason the trope of the starving artist is a thing. It is not easy, ever, to make it to the highest levels in art. And you have to look at Christine's context, too. She's an orphan. She has no significant social standing. Her father was a famous violinist, but that doesn't really seem to be doing anything for her in social circles, as far as we can tell. She has no money, as far as we know. And directly, I think it says that in a few versions. So, I mean, in terms of like the political world of art, she has no influence. And we have to just assume she's just really talented. But so are a lot of people. That's why making it in art is hard. There are a lot of talented people in the world. And remember, she's trying to pursue this career before the Phantom is teaching her. Part of the story is that the Phantom is an amazing teacher and she gets so much better at singing. But she wanted the career before she met him, and he gave her that extra boost, which is kind of the point. He's helping her career, which is something that she wants. Now, marrying Raoul, that's even harder. And this is like even more ignored, I think. It's actually in the original LaRue, where Raoul goes to see Christine after they're adults. They met when they were children. He sees her again after many years, and he leaves sad because he knows he can't marry her. Raoul is a young nobleman. He's rich. He's aristocratic. That kind of man didn't marry chorus girls from the opera house in the 1880s. There was a huge social gulf between them. LaRue mentions it, he then completely ignores it. Ever after in the book, it does not come up again. It doesn't come up in other versions. It's a modern audience, I think, that there would not be that gulf today. I mean, we treat our artistic stars or movie celebrities as royalty, so we don't see where the divide was. Singing on stage for money, even at the opera house, was not a particularly respectable career in the 1880s. I mean, there were the few breakout stars, but they were very unusual, and Christine is not really one of them. She has one or two star performances over the course of the book, but she is not a Jenny Lind type where, you know, all of Europe is at her feet. She's just not there. Maybe she would be given enough time, but she's not at the point where she marries Raoul. So, oh, and Leroux also gives us the example of Raoul's older brother, Philippe, who is in a relationship with Sorelli, the lead ballerina. But Sorelli is his mistress. He's not marrying her. And Sorelli would be many steps above Christine in like the artistic social world because she's the lead ballerina. She's not a chorus girl among chorus girls. So I think our choice here is to believe that Christine is just so good and beautiful and talented that two quite competent, quite independent men separately decide to help her in ways that are completely contrary to their characters, actually. The Phantom, I think it's pretty well assumed, he has never been in love before. He has never helped someone's career like this before. But he's going to do it for Christine. Also, it's very convenient, sidebar, that the one woman the Phantom wants to teach to sing is also the one woman who happens to believe in an angel of music who will come to teach her to sing. I mean, that's convenient. So it's a little bit odd that he's doing this. And then Raoul is going to marry someone completely out of his social class, even though nothing about him indicates that he's someone who would defy society like that, or his beloved older brother, who is much more forceful as a personality in the original book. So either she's just so good and beautiful that both of these men are deciding to do that, or she is making this happen. And that is the theory in mine, that she knows what to say to each of them. She lets people know that she's waiting to hear from an angel of music. I mean, people are talking about this at the opera house because she wants the Phantom to know about it. And she tells Raoul, oh, I'm so afraid of the Phantom. You have to help me and rescue me and marry me. I mean, I think she knows what she's doing, at least in my version. And my secret underlying intention here is that the next time you read or watch a different version of the Phantom, one that is not mine, you might look at what Christine is doing and say, that doesn't really make sense. I wonder if she knows what she's doing. I don't think any of the other writers intended this, but I did in my version. One more example, the famous rooftop scene. It's in a lot of versions. Christine takes Raoul up to the roof and tells him all about the Phantom. Why is she doing that in that place? I mean, there is a world outside of the opera house. It's easy to forget that because we're in a play or even in a book that doesn't really leave the opera house, but Christine and Raoul can. I mean, all they have to do is go out a door and walk 2 blocks. That's it. Instead, sometimes while fleeing in terror from the Phantom, Christine and Raoul go up 9 flights of stairs, give or take one. It is a tall building, to stop trapped on a rooftop. It's still in the Phantom's building, so to speak, and have an extended conversation about the Phantom. Why? That makes no sense at all. Unless Christine knew that the Phantom would overhear this. And why would he want to continue pursuing romantically a woman who is saying these horrible things about him and getting engaged to someone else? As you will see if you read the book, at this point in the story, when this is happening, the Phantom is not useful to her anymore. She's ready to move on and marry Raoul. And this seems like a great way to get rid of this crazy guy under an opera house who was helpful for a while, but is not anymore. Remember, usually this conversation happens after she has already achieved something in her career. She doesn't need the Phantom anymore at that point. So, I hope you will enjoy reading my book. Now you know one of the big underlying pieces of the story, and there's a bit of a reveal in the book that now you already know it's coming. But sometimes it's fun, I will admit, to know the spoiler, to know the answer to the mystery early on, and then you can watch how it's being built. So I hope you will see the clues as you go through my book. There is more that I have not specifically touched on about some of what Christine is doing and what some of her motivations are. And I hope you'll find it all quite interesting to read and different, because there are a lot of versions of the Phantom of the Opera story. There are not a lot of versions of Christine, but mine is a different version. So Guardian of the Opera Nocturne is book 1, and you can find more about me on marveloustales.com, more about the book as well. Books 2 and 3 continue the story, accompaniment, and dawn melody, and sometime in 2021, look for the Confessions of Christine Daae if you really want to know what she was thinking throughout the story.